Welcome to the Business of Strength podcast, number 4, hiring and developing great employees. Nothing can supercharge your business like adding a few key employees. At the same time, nothing can hurt your business more than hiring the wrong people. In this episode, Dan and I will help you identify your employee needs, how to hire the right people, how to use hungry, humble, and smart as your way of hiring everyone, our unique hiring process that we put everyone here at Varsity House through, our employee development strategies, and how we review and pay our employees here at Varsity House.
Welcome to the Business of Strength, powered by Varsity House Gym, the podcast for strength entrepreneurs.
Welcome, everybody, to the Business of Strength post-Labor Day podcast. Well, Dan and I sit here and try and work out the cobwebs in my brain. We are going to cover one of the most important topics in all of the gym business, and that's hiring and developing great employees. Before Dan and I knew how to hire and develop great employees, we got lucky with a couple of good people that we have here still with us today. And you know, but like they always say, there's really no such thing as luck. We did have a couple processes put in place and a couple key things that we thought would be important way back in the day that still stand the test of time today, like our internship program and things like that. There was a couple key things that we did right from the get. Before we had ever taken a business course or worked with a business coach or read a lot of the management books and things like that we have today. So I think a lot of people are in the same boat. One of the questions we always get during our Business of Strength seminars is how do we hire the right people? There's a lot of turnover in the gym industry. How do you get the quality guys that you have here, and how do you get everybody on the same mission? And once you have them, what are you guys doing in terms of paying your employees and developing those employees and continuing to kind of have them move up the ladder from whether it be an intern to head strength and conditioning coach to more of a managerial role?
I think it was probably our most asked question at this last Business of Strength seminar. Yeah. And just to touch upon how we kind of stepped into shit with retaining and keeping some really key components is that from the get-go, you and I, there was only one way, and that was this way. There was no backup plan. There was no like, oh, well, maybe I'm going to go to grad school, or maybe I could get this job over here with this person. It was like, burn the ships. This is working, and it was a steadfast approach that the only way we were going to make it happen was through Varsity House. And when you have that kind of conviction and commitment, it kind of resonates through everybody. We're like, oh man, like I want to be on board with this. Screw the money. They just believed in what was happening here.
Yeah, and I think that we also, from the get, we also only hired people that were lifers, that were dedicated coaches. So now we have some part-timers, and now we have some people that have other roles. But when we first opened the gym, we said, you're either a full-time coach in your full-time Varsity House, and you eat, sleep, and breathe Varsity House. If you had another job, you can't work here. Like, we were pretty strict about that. Like, you had to be dedicated to us and only us, because what I had seen before working at a lot of other gyms was just that there was a person who would come in for 2 or 3 classes or something like that, and they would just collect their $30 to $50 or whatever it was for like a step aerobics class or some BS boot camp class, and they just collected a paycheck. They're just, hey, I'm here to make my $150 this week, and I'm making $150 from this gym. I got my full-time gig over here. I'm doing whatever. I bartend on the weekends, and I'm piecing together an income with just a couple different part-time jobs, and we didn't want that. I wanted somebody who was fully dedicated and committed to coaching and developing themselves as a world-class coach and or employee now that we have a full staff of employees. Another thing that I think that made us unique was that it's always been our intent, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way, like we think we're better than anybody, not at all, but it's always been our intent to be the absolute best in the world, and or at least strive to it. You know what I mean? And one of our core values of being committed to excellence is so critical to everything that me and Dan have done our entire lives before we even met, and just wanting to always be a little bit better than the guy next to us, or a little bit better than the gym down the street, or a little bit have more, have better customer service than all the places I ever worked at, and so forth. And it was just that constant raising of the bar. So when we hired people, it was like, well, great, you want to be a full-time employee. Great, you're going to work here and only here. But are you really committed to being the best? Like, case in point, like you take two guys that have been with us the longest, Trevor, our GM and IT guru, and Big Mike, our head of strength and conditioning, still going to classes, still trying to better themselves, still improving on every aspect of their abilities, from training to management to working with employees and things like that, to working with clients. And that's just been a consistent thing. And I think that's one of the things from me and you is that mindset of just like, hey, it's either all or nothing.
That's cultural, right? Like if you see people, I mean, we talk about it all the time. We've done some consulting work. But look, if you had shown up to work late every single day and left early every single day and took a 2-hour lunch, what is everybody else going to do?
Right.
They're going to follow suit. So it's like if you see from the top down that everybody is showing up on time, quarterly going to continuing education classes, going out of their way to connect with other like-minded individuals in the industry, going out of their way to go to football games on the weekend, going out of their way to provide invaluable customer service and build real relationships. It's just going to happen across the board. And you can see if somebody along the way doesn't do those things, they stick out like a sore thumb. And it's like the whole community here is just kind of like, eh.
And they get weeded out.
Exactly.
In most
pretty
cases.
Quickly, So it has to be culturally, and you can't expect people as a leader to do things that you are unwilling to do. I know it's so cliche to say that, but you really have to be on board with what you expect from.
You got to walk the walk, and I think it's very hard for people. It's human nature to pick out people's flaws, and it's terrible as that sounds, but if Trevor's telling me one thing, and then I constantly see him doing another, it's human nature to be like, look, that guy ain't doing what he's doing. He's full of shit. You know what I mean? It's so
especially if he's your boss.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So it's even more natural for an employee or somebody underneath you to be like, fuck this guy. He's always telling me, do this, do that, do this, and then he disappears for 2 hours every day to go get coffee and hang out. Reads poetry under the tree or some shit, whatever it is. Trevor's reading gangster rap.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So. From a growth perspective and building your gym, if you just want to be a guru and in a sense, blog about training, create cool content and do things, and you're just going to be a solo entrepreneur, then employees don't matter. But if you're going to run a gym, like, I would say 95% of the strength entrepreneurs out there that makes money, you're going to have to hire people. And just like everything, if you create a process and you create some systems, like everything we always talk about, if you create a process and create systems to match that process, you will help yourself greatly over the long roll. And you might not always. You might have to tweak that process a whole bunch of times because you're going to run into roadblocks and things like that, and new scenarios might pop up. Definitely. But as long as you have some structure.
One thing about that too, I want to touch upon is that to get anywhere with a crew of people is going to take you way longer than it is to go by yourself. So it is way easier to be that guru in a garage.
There's nobody to answer to.
Or on the internet or training one-on-one or small groups. You can get there. You can get there pretty quickly. You can make a good living, definitely. But you're not running a business that's going to be a world-class training center or world-class training gym. You're not. I mean, and I really believe that if it's going to take a while and it's going to take certain people to get up to speed where you feel like you can entrust in them to do the tasks that maybe you would rather do, where they could eventually do them better than you can, but the impact that you're going to create with 5 employees, 10 employees, 20 employees is going to be far greater than the impact you could ever make alone. And it's going to take you I truly believe it's going to take you much longer to get there. But once you get there, you're going to have that quote unquote real business.
Yeah. I mean, people management and leadership skills are just that. They are skills that have to be honed just like anything else. And
Takes time.
I would say like me and you, probably one of the last things that we really focused on was like, great, how do I be a real leader, a team leader? How do I direct initiatives? How do I get my employees to take action, understand what they have to do? It took
coaching for us where it was like, well, how many hours a week do you spend on employee development? And it was like zero. Literally zero.
Only when I have to.
Yeah. Only, exactly.
Only when I have to.
Totally reactive.
If somebody tells me they want to quit, then I got to worry about employee relationships.
Situationally, where it was like, we did like fun stuff as a crew, but it wasn't marked on the calendar. We did, coaches meetings, but it was always impromptu. We had situations on the floor where, it wasn't until there was a mishap with an exercise where a coach was being reprimanded. It was like, holy shit, like we got to figure this out here.
Yeah.
And
needed some real HR structure when it came to
100%. And we needed a coach to tell us that it was time to take a step back in order to take 2 steps forward.
All right. So from a growth perspective, nothing will supercharge your business like adding a few great employees. True success comes from the success of others, right? Varsity House, we would not be where we are today without each and every single person that's here. Hiring the right people allows you to delegate more of the day-to-day work. Doesn't mean that it's menial work. It just means that it's stuff that becomes less important as the gym gets busier and busier and busier. The stuff I had to do when we started day 1 10 years ago is very different than the stuff I do now. Okay?
Let me interrupt you real quick. Like with people I think asked us during the business strength, like, what does that mean? Like, what type of trivial tasks were you doing? And just quick story, Joe and I would literally finish the day, come upstairs with Big Mike. Literally, there was no point of sale. We had no front desk. We'd come upstairs, and we had a little check-in sheet. So when people came in, they were supposed to write their names down. I'd say they did 75% of the time. Yeah. But then it'd be like, Joe Smith was definitely here for the 4:30 class. Are you sure, Mike? Are you sure he was here? Yeah, check him off. And
we were about 75%.
Right. And
so right off the bat, we were losing 50%.
Right. So we did that for 2 years at the end of every night. That probably took us legitimately at least 30 minutes a night
just doing
for
nonsense.
2 years straight.
Just doing
So
nonsense.
think about that time that's been freed up by having just a point of sale.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. That's what Joe's talking about when he's talking about trivial tasks that can be done either by, an admin that works part-time and or a computer. Which is that's the type of stuff, because I think sometimes people think they're like, what is he talking about? And that's what we're talking about.
So when you hire right people, just like anything in business, you got to develop those people as well. So once you have them, it's not set it and forget it. There is constant renewal of the goals, the incentives, what they're here for, and constantly prodding people to create more, do more, and be more within the roles that they're in. Right, and that is another thing too, is defining exactly what you want them to do. It's your job as the gym owner to hold everyone to a higher standard and make sure that they are, in a sense, acting out the vision of the gym and heading in the right direction. Now, we covered that quite a bit with our Vision Traction podcast. You could go back and check that out. But it all starts with vision traction, and then employee delegation and leadership and regular meetings, and just making sure that you have your meetings with each individual and as a group on a regular basis, so that you can ensure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing and moving in the right direction. I think a lot of gym owners get bogged down with the day-to-day tasks that they try to do themselves, and they forget to have their coaches meeting, and they forget to have their front desk meeting, and they might not do a quarterly sales projections. They might not have rock reviews every quarter and things like that. And all of a sudden, it starts off really great at the beginning of every new gym, because you got a whole bunch of people all fired up. And every new employee, generally, unless they really suck, starts off pretty fired up and ready to go. And, all excited to do stuff. Like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And then after a while, if you don't...
For 6 months.
For 6 months. And then after a while, if you don't give them stuff to do, and you don't give them incentives, and you don't give them projects that are inspiring and that they want to work on, right? Even for the part-time front desk girl, right, or guy who's just kind of, who in your head you were like, that is just there to check people in. If you can give them something for them that they can take pride in and be appreciative
and
hang their hat on, it's going to help them stay interested and in their job so much more. So all those little things aside, I think a lot of people just get bogged down in the people management. And, as a sidebar, I know Dan will back me up on this one, and Trevor especially. People management is tiring as fuck. Like, I hate to say it, but, dealing with 20 employees, you're dealing with 20 different emotions, 20 different families. Everybody's awesome here, but everybody's got their own. Everybody's either married or has a significant other. Everybody's got their own family. Everybody's got dogs, and God forbid your dog gets sick. God forbid your mom is sick. God forbid somebody. There's all those issues that come up. This guy wants more money. This person wants a better lifestyle. This person wants to create this. So a lot of now the issues here are generally not revolved around money and stuff like that. Here it's around creativity. Like all of our coaches want to create products, create this. They want to have this, and this. And it's like, guys, we can only roll out so many things at one time. So there's good problems, some, and then all the other stuff that people have, just emotional issues and things like that, and just dealing with people's as they grow as people. And like some of them, like you look at like Big Mike. I mean, Big Mike started working when he was, he was a kid. He was 22 years old. He was the same age as you guys. He was 22. Now he's in his 30s, engaged, on his way to having his own family and things like that. So there's a huge life swing in who he is as a person. And so part of being being a great boss and being a great leader is you got to form and you got to conform to those changes, you know what I mean? And you have to be able to look at Mike and say, well, 10 years ago, I could do X, Y, and Z with Mike, and that was okay. At 31 years old, getting married, busting his ass for 10 years, things probably got to change a little bit for him to stay dialed in as much as he is. And you got to give him other things to focus his energy on.
I think sometimes, too, gym owners will look at somebody, I think, Big Mike is a perfect example where you might be in a small business and think to yourself, Big Mike's great, but I don't know if this gym can afford him in 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. But you don't have to consume yourself with that. If that person is that good and you've led that person to be that good, the money should follow them. You know what I mean? And it's like, as long as you hash it out and you communicate about expectations of where you envision them to be and where they envision themselves to be. And as long as you guys can level, you'll always be able to grow together.
Yeah, I mean, well, can you afford not to pay him, though?
Right.
That's the thing, too. So, like, if so we say that a lot, but it's like, I mean, after 10 years, there is no other Trevor. Like, there isn't somebody that I can just plug into what he does here because his role has evolved so much and he's done so much for the business. And just like Big Mike, losing Big Mike would be a catastrophic change in our entire culture. You know what I mean? And he's such a huge part of the gym that it's like, well, at some point, me and Dan just like, well, we got to take it on the arm. I mean, I don't even think about Mike's salary when it comes to paying him and what he's worth at this point. Now it's just we have to figure it out. That's just it. You know what I mean? And have to make it worth their while so that they feel invested in the company. And there's a lot of strategies and things like that we could talk about in a minute. So how do we hire great people? How do we develop those people? And how do we weed out the bad, right? Now, we've had a few, let's call it not perfect employees. I don't think we've ever hired a bad one who had ill intentions, but we've run into some issues in the past, and what we want to do is help you kind of avoid some of those issues. You're not going to be able to avoid them all. It's impossible. You're dealing with the human factor, right? You're dealing with the human emotion. We are a living, breathing organism that is dynamic in every way, and people can surprise the shit out of you. Life can change real fast. So the first thing you need to do when hiring right people is identifying your actual need. And I think one of the biggest issues that we've seen is a gym will get really busy, and they'll hire a bunch of people, some coaches, some admin, and they'll put people into, let's call it overinflated roles that don't really exist. Whether it's an operations manager, whether it's a head strength and conditioning coach, whether it's head of social media or marketing, whether it's just a strength coach and you're just going to head up our adult program, whatever it might be. And they hire somebody when there's let's call it a moderate need, right? The gym seems really busy. They hire a few people, but there's not enough real work for that person, or that the business hasn't clearly defined the role and outlined everything that they need to be doing on a
day-to-day basis. Which takes a lot of work.
Which takes a shit ton of work, right? So identifying a specific need is critical, right? So like, and you have to be realistic. Like for us, our plan is we don't need it until we absolutely need it, right? And that means that the gym floor has to be absolutely shit packed, right? And that each guy, including Dan and I, are doing too many sessions, right? And that was the case this summer. And we were like, we have to hire somebody this September. We had to, and we did. And we hired JC, one of our interns, who was also one of our athletes, as a part-time coach who's going to learn the ropes for the next couple of years. He did the 12-week internship and stuff like that, and now he's here part-time.
And was a member here for
here for a couple of years. So we've also restructured some of the roles of the coaches we have in terms of time and schedule and stuff like that to make sure that it fit more aptly to what we needed in terms of coaching, right? Like, quick example, Joey Mack, who was always our morning coach for the last 4 or 5 years, who was doing 6 a.m.s. We've removed him from that obligation so that he could be here and close the gym at night because there was more of a need at night since we have 2 coaches on during the day. So Sean is going to take over as the primary morning coach, and Joey will now be allocated primarily to afternoon duty so that he is, fresh, fired up, and ready to go till 8:30 at night. So there you have to look at what your needs are, what you have, and what you can pay, and all those kind of wrapped into one. We recently just hired a front desk admin as well, Gwen, who's doing amazing. Sold her first VHU today, by the way, which was fantastic. She did a great job. Gave the guy an awesome gym tour, and the ultimate gym tour, by the way. and so for us, it was a need. Hey, we had a part-time employee, summer help, Lexi, in, and she worked these shift. Here's the need. It's 6 a.m. from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. these 3 days plus Friday, and that was it. That was the need. We kind of put out a bulletin. I knew Gwen was looking for some work. It was like, hey, here's the exact need. These are the exact times that I need. It's either a yes or no. Can you work these times? Or can you not? Yes, good, perfect, done. So identifying your need, making sure that there's a real real dying need. Is it not something temporarily? Like we always take summer interns in the summer, but it would kind of be foolish for us to hire a new full-time coach in May because we know we're going to be busy for the summer, but then we're going to be slower again back to our normal schedule in September, October, November. So then we're stuck paying a full-time coach all the way through the dead months too. So we take a whole bunch of interns in the summertime, keep our core group staff going strong. And everybody's got to step it up. We all worked our butts off this summer, but at the end of it, we're back to September. Everybody's back to a normal schedule. Things die down a little bit. Things calm down, and everybody's back to normal. And not everybody's like, okay, we're back to a normal schedule. We don't need to hire somebody. So I think some gym owners tend to be very reactive, get a little too excited, right? Hire some of their friends maybe or people they know in the industry, and generally speaking, do not go through the process of identifying the need and outlining that need specifically, right? The next thing on the list is just creating the outline for the job order, right? So if you want to coach, if you're going to hire a coach, clearly outlining that job, its responsibilities, the day-to-day, what they're going to be doing, pay work, how you're going to pay them, what their chances for increases in raises are, and how you're going to, in a sense, get them working every single day. Because you might say, well, I just want a coach. So, and if you're hiring full-time, then you're hiring a real employee. So we only hire real employees. We don't hire people to come do classes. So if you hire somebody to come do a class, you could just say, well, I just need a fun, upbeat coach for an hour, and they can get the hell out of here. I don't really care about them. But if you're trying to hire real employees, you got to have other shit for them to do. Yeah. Most people are not coaching 40, 50 hours a week. They're going to coach 30, and there's going to be 10 to 15 other hours during the week that you should have them doing some stuff that's related to the gym business, or give them some type of ancillary roles to fill. Whether it could be putting the workouts on the whiteboard every Monday. Maintenance. It
Writing.
Writing content for the website. Whatever. Posting videos.
Right.
It could be anything.
Coaches meeting. It could be you could have your. It could be customer engagement.
Anything. It could be anything. It could be writing five, personal, handwritten letters to your private clients, whatever it might be. There has to be some other things in there, and that has to be clearly outlined. When we hire somebody here, it's a job description, it's duties, it's pay, it's time off, it's everything is outlined step by step so that they know exactly what they're getting themselves into and what they have to do every day. And I then have a checklist to go off of. So if I say 3 months in, I'm like, all right, Dan, let's see how you did the last couple of months. Have a 90-day checkup, and it's like, well, you haven't gotten the whiteboards done once. You haven't posted any content to the website. You haven't, and then I have, hopefully he's done all those things. But it's either like, great, fantastic, you're awesome, you're the best, or it's, hey man, these are some things that we need to work on. So it gives you some reference points too, because it's easy to sit in my office and say, well, I did this when I was 20, and I did this, and I did this, and why isn't he doing that? Why isn't he doing that? Right. Most people, you have to lay it out.
Maybe you had a better mentor. You know what I mean?
It's I always say that you cannot think that somebody else who is not the owner is going to think like you, right? This is my life. This is all I care about, and it has been all I've cared about for the better part of 20 years. So I can't expect some 25-year-old kid who might be fantastic to come in and have the same exact mentality as me, and be like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Because the
expectations have to be
moderate,
and also like getting back to, if say you hire a coach and you want them to come and coach, and they're going to work, let's just say 45 to 50 hours a week. If you're booking them with 40 to 45 to 50 session hours a week,
you're killing them.
There's only a certain amount of time that anybody could stand to do that, and there's plenty of people that will stand there and do it. But what is your product going to be like? Are you putting your best foot forward when it comes to the product? If you have a coach that's tired, beat up, and is on their 9th session of the day, absolutely not. I don't care what anybody tells me. So, make sure that you have some breaks in the day where, somebody could come in and do 2 good sessions. They could have, some reprieve in the middle of the day where they eat and work on something else just to do something else, so they have some stimulation, and then finish out the day with 3 other sessions or 4 other sessions. So they're still doing a volume of sessions, but it's not 10 a day.
We're going to do a whole podcast on product development, how we develop our classes and our model for maximizing your, let's call it, client to trainer ratio and dollar. You know what I mean? And obviously group training, getting guys to do 4. Let's say you did it in our situation here. We have a lot of business in the afternoon. So if you go 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, right? You do 4 group sessions with anywhere between, let's call it, 5 to 15 people. You're really maximizing your dollar. And now we do a lot of privates, but I'm sorry, but standing there for an hour to make $75 to $100 isn't necessarily the best dollar. So if you're a small gym and you have a small crew of employees and you haven't already switched to a group training methodology,
and groups could be 3 to 5 people, 2 to 4 people.
It can still be a very personal thing, and you're doing, let's say, 3 to 5 people. It doesn't have to be a class of 10 to 20 people like we do. But we do all 3. We do private, small groups, and classes. And that's going to maximize your dollar. So now you can justify, like, you have a guy making $250 for an hour or $200 for an hour, right? Well, now if I do 4 sessions at $200, I'm at X, right? I got $800. Or if I just stood there and did 4 or 5 privates at $75, So you have to try and maximize your time, but. But again, setting up their expectations by outlining exactly what you want them to do. And basically how we did that was I just followed our coaches around for a couple of days, obviously myself being one of them at the time when I was coaching, 40 sessions like everybody else. What do I do all day to be a great coach? And it was like, all right, and we just made a list of shit that, hey, if you're a coach here, here's the list of duties. Here's all the things that I want to see everybody doing every day. These are the things. And we just outline it for them. And when they sign on to be an employee, they sign that piece of paper, an acknowledgement that they've read their job order and they understand what their duties are, what they're getting paid, what the time frame for work is, what their hours are, and anything and everything that could be on there related to the work is upfront and transparent. And that's key. Okay? Next up is hungry, humble, and smart. Okay, hiring your core values. Now, our core values here are hungry, humble, and committed to excellence. But we make everybody here who's a new hire read a book by Patrick Lencioni called The Ideal Team Player. And we got that from Ben Bergeron at CrossFit New England. He does the same thing with his employees, and it was such a great book, and it was such a great story about how the core values of hungry, humble, and smart, socially smart, relate to being a great team player, and that if you are missing one of those core values in any situation, and they work through a whole bunch of different scenarios in the book, that you're going to fall short as an employee, and your team is going to suffer. And nothing could be more true. And believe me when I tell you that we have looked at this and we sat staring at our core values and forever. And as far as I can tell, if you hire hungry, humble, and smart, you will inevitably have hired a pretty good person. And then it's up to you as the leader to lead them into the role that you want them and to direct them in the direction that you want them to go and outline their position. And
certain people, when you interview them, or you in our case, you have them in the internship, they could be coddled with being, hungry, humble, and socially smart to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. But I think somebody's going to be humble or not, right from the get-go. Somebody can definitely be humbled by a scenario. And, they could have conversations and whatnot. And I think as you grow a little bit older, you become hopefully a little bit more humble and less insecure, and just socially smart, though. Sometimes people need a little push, and, that comes with insecurity, too, where they don't really have a ton of self-confidence in front of a huge group, but if you got them solo, they can really hold a great conversation, or they're ultimately a really good person. So there are development strategies that you can definitely improve upon an employee's ability to be hungry, humble, and smart, but I truly believe that these people innately either have it or they do not.
Yeah, I would say especially for the first two virtues, hungry and humble, those are kind of innate qualities that you're going to build as a child all the way through, probably part of your family upbringing and stuff like that. Socially smart has a lot to do with your social environment, social upbringing, and I know that people can improve on their social skills because we both have tremendously. And I also know that, and I've seen the development.
Definitely.
When Big Mike came in, right, and I hate to keep using Mike as the example, but
look at Adam.
But when he came in, Adam was quiet. Mike was quiet. I used to yell at Mike during our coaches meetings, like, dude, you need to vocalize more. You need to lead. You need to inspire. Like, I can't hear you whispering in the back. Oh, kids, you gotta get your hips back a little bit. Okay, thanks. And if you see Big Mike, he's 260 pounds and he's one of the strongest human beings on earth. But he's a very mild-tempered kind of guy. And he's just
which is why people love him.
But when he first started coaching, he was like, hey, guys, you just sit those hips back a little bit for me. Thanks. Okay, good. He wasn't that bad. I'm busting his chops. But the reality is that, he had to learn how to interact with people. And now he's probably one of the best. He's one of the best salesmen we got, No, but it's the truth. He's probably one of the best, let's call it, people persons in the gym. The clients love him. He's got a great demeanor. He's learned how to take his personality and maximize it in the gym and how to use his personality to his advantage. And all Mike does is stay dialed in, focus. He talks to everybody with an even keel, right? And the clients love him for it. And he is probably more than anybody, including us, has upsold more clients from group setting to private training than anybody in the gym, just because of his social ability that has improved greatly.
It's trust.
It's trust. And he was not like that when he first started. So you can definitely work on that. And as an employee, you have to be smart enough to say, and this is why we do our employee reviews, and you just have to sit down sometimes and be real. Hey, man, I see you doing X, Y, and Z. That's not how it's going to happen here. That's not the social smart way to go about it. Make sure that you're doing this, this, and this. And let them know. Sometimes people have like an innate personality trait that's part of who they are. And maybe they grew up in a household that, everybody's from Long Island and they talk like truck drivers. Hey, fucking, how you doing? You know what I mean? And they have whatever. You don't know. So it's like, hey, man, you have to tone things down. You have to go to a different place when you hear
If you have a crop of 21-year-old interns that are still in college, and you peruse their Instagram page and they've posted something that is not socially smart, it's your responsibility to talk to them and let them know that that's not what you're about. It's not socially acceptable in the confines of your business, and here's why. You can't just berate them and be like, "What the fuck? Like, you can't be doing that." Like, that's unacceptable.
No.
That's lack of leadership. But that's something that can easily be changed, and if they're unwilling to change it, then they can't work for you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that everybody deserves an opportunity to improve themselves. You, as the leader, have to point out the specific issues that they need to work on and how they're going to work on. You have to help them. You have to, in a sense, put them in the place.
You gain respect by doing that,
no
too.
doubt. I mean, if you put them in the place to help themselves and they still fail, then it's time to take a serious second look, and that person might not be the best opportunity, the best option for you guys. You might have to let them go, But if you give them all the tools, you specifically explain to them what they're doing wrong and why, or how their actions are not hungry, humble, or smart, and give them the tools to better themselves. And if they do it, great. You just helped mold a great employee, and you might actually see like them turn around 180 degrees. Like, there has definitely been some small little changes in here where we've given people specific opportunities to improve, and they have taken it 10x and really ran with it to another degree, and that's helped tremendously. So the first virtue is hungry. And our measuring stick here is do they want to work? Do they understand the gym business is a 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. business, that there is give and take? Are they willing to come in and pick up some extra hours on the weekend? Are they willing to, are they the first one in, last one out? That's cliche as hell, but are they always willing, like when their session's finished up at 5 o'clock, do they run out the door and leave, or do they pick up some gear, meet with me or Dan and just check in before they go home? Is there that little extra bit of effort to close out the day properly?
I think with that, you could just easily tell with somebody very quickly, does it mean more to them than just the dollars and cents?
Yes.
Does it mean something to them? Like, do they care about how they're perceived by their peers
as a worker, as an employee?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like, are they brown nosing to the boss? It's like, do they want the person that works next to them to respect them as somebody that's they know has their back and is willing to do anything for them? And I think that's the best and clearest definition of somebody that's truly hungry.
Yeah, and you take somebody like a Joey Mack, who's been with us for a long time. Joey, I've known Joey since he was 11 years old. His dad's a grinder, his mom's a grinder, his brothers are grinders. Everybody in the McNerney family works their asses off. And Joey has like a real conscious acknowledgement of his work ethic, you know what I mean? And that's kind of
proud of it.
That's what defines us McNerneys, man. He always says
he's proud of it.
Yeah, he's proud of it. And he's always, anytime, Joe, can you work this out? I got you, man. Joe, can you stay to 8:30? I got you, man. Joe, can you do a 6 a.m. because Sean's out? I got you, man. And so
but he knows he will have a job here with us for life.
No doubt.
So there's something there, it's
doubt.
give and take, where we respect him because of that.
Absolutely, 100%. Why wouldn't you? I mean, he's every gym needs to find themselves a Coach Joey Mack, no doubt. You got to have a guy
Joey from Northville.
Yeah, he's from Northville. You got to have a
Joey
guy.
Petrillo.
Joey Belmar, how you doing? You got to have a guy that you can count on day in and day out, who's really a go-to. Like he is in a sense our utility guy. He can coach anybody. He does athletes and adults. He's great at both. He if I needed to sit him at the front desk on a Sunday, he could absolutely do it. He's a great guy, and you need to cultivate that over. It took a long time too to get Joey to a point where he's at now. It took years. So the next one is humility. This one is the most obvious, I think, and the one that's the hardest one to change is that how do people interact with other people in express their humility, right? And by that, I mean, like,
it's tough to identify.
It's tough to identify, but like, how do they approach? Do they approach clients and their coworkers and community with like a sense of honor and dignity? Do they seem like, obviously one of the things for us is like when I ask somebody to stay late, do they? Well, what do I get out of it? Or what do I get for it? You know, that's like a red flag. It's like, what do you mean, what do you get for it? You get a steady paycheck every week. You know, if it's a one-off, if I'm going to ask you to coach 10 new classes a week for the next year, yes, we'll sit down and talk. But if somebody, you know, calls out or gets a flat tire and I need you to pick up a class and you're worried about your $25 or something like that, that's a problem. Okay. If you're working, you know, here we have a lot of other employees. Are you humble with the other employees? You know, is there this sense of teamwork? Are we, you know, if Mike is writing programming and you don't have anything to do, are you jumping in to help? You know, and things like that. Do you offer your assistance? Or if you don't have a session, like one of the pet peeves here for us is like, if you don't have a session, you should still be down on the floor helping the other guys who do. Like why? If we're paying you a full salary, a full-time salary, and you're here full-time hours, unless you're doing something creative or productive in your own right, if you don't have anything to do and you're not working on a project or something like that, well, stay on the floor and coach. You know what I mean? So you know, so those are some keys for humility, and leave your ego at the door. Do anything and everything. Every single guy in this gym has come through the internship process. Every single this guy has cleaned the bathrooms. Every single guy in here has helped mop the floors, clean the gym, you know, train clients that you know, maybe weren't the clients that they thought they'd be training, you know, things like that. Not everybody's training like, you know, Division I athletes and NFL All-Pros, you know what I mean? So you're going to wind up training a couple clients here and there that maybe drive you crazy, right, and stuff like that. And it's like, how are you today? Looking great. You know what I mean? Service with a smile, right? And all those things are cues to someone's humility. From a hiring perspective, I look at humble and hungry as, do they ask me a lot of questions about their pay, about time off, about their hours and things like that? Those are, like, in an interview, those are keys. Is their conversation team-centric? I can do this, I'll do this, I will, or is it, well, I will, but do I get paid for those? Well, I will, but, you know, how many days off do I get? Well, I will, but do I get it? So if I do more privates, do I get an increase in, you know what I mean? If everything's centered around themselves and the money, you're probably not getting hungry and humble, you know? So, yeah, that's something that's critical, and nothing will rip a team apart more than a lack of humility, right? Because people start to really get a bad taste in their mouth, and other employees who are hungry and humble and are working their asses off for this better cause, right? Of your brand. If somebody else is walking in a different direction than everybody and kind of throwing it in their faces, it stands out, and then people start to say, well, what am I doing? I'm busting my ass, and this guy's not. Like, you know, how's that? You know, I'm in the bathroom at 9 o'clock at night cleaning the goddamn waste paper baskets out before I go home, and the other guys just peace out. They're like vapor trails at 8:30. They're out the door. You know what I mean? So all those little things are cues and kind of clues for you as the business owner, and require upfront conversation immediately. If you start to see a lack of humility or a lack of hunger and just kind of things you have to nip it in the butt immediately. It's one of the worst conversations you're ever going to have. It sucks having to tell another adult that they're not doing something that they're supposed to be, right? But that's part of that. That is what you signed up for. You want to be a strength entrepreneur. You want to own your own gym. You want to run a real business. You're gonna have to have, you know, real business conversations sometimes, and you're gonna have to tell people what's what. And I don't know. It always sucks. Why is it always gotta be me? I'll start making Trevor fire. That's it, Trevor. You're on fire in detail. Bring the axe.
Everybody's getting fired then.
More money for me. Trevor's going to be nobody will care if you actually train people as long as you just put like cool workouts on the board and DJ and like do cool shit, and you have like beer pong, like you got a keg in the corner.
I'll run a real session, boys.
That's it. The gym will be popping for about 3 weeks, and then everybody just be out of here. And then the last virtue is smart, and by smart we mean socially smart. Do you want clients, you want employees that work well with others, who understand human emotion, that understand that there are a variety of different types of people from different backgrounds, from different walks of life, from different ethnicities, different religions, different social, status, and so forth, each of which requires a certain type of social approach. And understanding how to work with people, get the most out of people, and get the best out of people is really what it means to be a great coach anyway. So that should be one of the things that you work really hard to cultivate, and helping your employees understand how to deal with clients and other employees, right? And how to work together, and how to in a sense look at the differences in social ability in people's social persona, and so like an example is someone who's like like I don't know, like my best friend Mike, who's like a left wing Democrat, political nut, right? Yeah, nut, right? He goes nuts, He's not socially smart when it comes to voicing his political opinions, right? It's he rants all over his website, his Facebook. He's he engages in email battles with his friends and sometimes
Think about how
clients.
much time that takes too.
It's just
It's like-
nonsense. But you never know who you're talking to, and from a business perspective, you could really piss somebody off really fast by voicing a political opinion, a racial opinion, an ethnic opinion, when you really probably should keep that shit to yourself and just understand that in the world that we live in today, with social media and communication being nearly instantaneous, what you post and what you put out to the world, whether it be your staunch opinion or not, might not be the best socially smart way to go about it.
One comment could define your brand forever.
Absolutely, and there is, I should say, a treasure trove of, celebrities who have ruined themselves with political, social, racial issues.
Huge celebrities,
Huge. And that is in a sense what we're talking about, being socially smart. From the gym perspective, right? We're talking about the ability to work with others in a kind and conscious manner, and work with a variety of employees from all different backgrounds, and be able to understand how to get the best out of each and every one of those clients in a smart, sensible, calm demeanor type of way. One of the examples we had, one of the interns this summer was always all fired up, and he was awesome. He was a great kid and out of his mind, right? But like screaming and yelling and bugging out and high fiving and ass slapping and stuff like that. That's great for the college crew, but you can't take that same social, perspective and then take it over to like, the 10 a.m., women's class, where it's like, they're gonna be like, yo, this kid's got to calm down, right? So just being able to understand your audience and stuff is critical part. So when you hire people, you have to outline what your definition of hungry, humble, and smart are. Have it clearly stated on the hiring paper, that this is what we're hiring, this is what we believe in, this is who we are and what we believe in. And if you don't meet these things, that we're going to notice and we're going to take action. And that action is going to include a chance to better yourself, or it's going to be a chance to get the hell out the door you go. So that's kind of our process. Now, our core values are committed to excellence. And I said it before, one of the things we really look for is not just people who want to work hard and are willing to do anything, but people who are committed to actually becoming one of the best in their field. And that is something a little bit different, right? Because people could say they want to be the best, and that's super easy. I want to be the best trainer in the world. To become the best trainer in the world, you're going to have to bust your ass, and you're going to have to work your ass off. 10x what the normal hungry, humble, and smart guy is willing to do. I want guys who want to be viewed as and be in the same, breath as some of the best coaches in the world, and that takes a shit ton of work and responsibility. So clearly outline your core values and hire and fire from those core values. Make sure that you hire hungry, humble, and smart. And that's the best way to start off on the right foot, is just hire good people and hire the right people, right? Identify your need, clearly outline the need, and then hire hungry, humble, and smart. So one of the things that we like too is what we call measure twice, cut once, right? That's a common phrase that a lot of people have heard, right? You want to, in a sense, do your due diligence when hiring an employee to make sure that you have weeded out any inconsistencies in their ability and or personality, and make sure that they fit into your team. Now, it's really easy to fake an interview, right? And I say that, in all truthfulness, because I feel like I have been duped on occasion or so. And I know that when I've gone into interviews in the past, I've definitely fooled the shit out of some people, right? And it's the truth though. Like are you going to go into an interview and tell them about all the failures you've had and all the things that you've done shitty? Not likely, right? But when somebody comes in here and tells me that, hey, I headed up a $500,000 project and it failed, but here's why and here's what I did to fix it going forward. That's probably the person I would hire more than anything over anybody, because that shows real humility to in a sense emphasize your growth from failure. But here's some things that you can do to mitigate some of the let's call it potential danger in hiring a bad employee. One is have a detailed interview. Make sure that you ask the right questions. Make sure that you acknowledge your definition of hungry, humble, and smart, and what it actually means to be an employee of your gym, your ethos, your mission statement, and all the things that are critical to understanding the overall vision of your company and where it's going. Get rid of the status quo interview question. So where do you see yourself going in the next 10 years, Dan? Nobody fucking knows that. Honestly, nobody knows that shit, right? So it's like nobody. So you want to ask pertinent questions. What have you done? Who have you coached? Where have you worked? What's your relationship with your mother like? I always ask, what's your relationship with your family? Do your mom and dad still in your life? Do you talk to your brothers and sisters, things like that? Does start to if nobody has any friends or doesn't talk to their family, it's probably a red flag. I have no friends, and I don't talk to anyone in my family. Okay, all right. All right, but you're gonna fit in great here with 500 clients that are gonna drive you crazy every day, right? So make sure that you have a detailed interview. You have to come up with your list. I can have Trevor put it in our show notes, the list of interview questions that we have here. But it depends on the position, obviously. If we're hiring a coach, it's more coaching based. It's more, I'm not so concerned with the X's and O's of coaching, like physiology and programming and periodization, because we're going to teach them anyway. But I'm more inclined into their coaching mindset, dealing with problems, problem assessment. Can they critical thinking? What's their mindset towards coaching a kid who's acting up, or coaching an adult client who's being unruly about something or whatever. And what are the questions that would lead me to believe that you're going to make the smart, socially smart, ethical decision and do the right thing? That's really what's most critical. Number 2 is have a lengthy onboard process, right? So an interview to hire is how most gyms, in all the business of strength people that we've had over the last, couple seminars and met through that connection, most people, I need a coach. I got a guy I know who's good. You're hired. That's basically it.
It's totally reactive to the need and the situation of
even
we can't accommodate the load. Bring somebody on.
Now, we knew we were going to hire JC in September. I had already spoken to JC. I had already identified JC as the need and what we wanted in the gym. And
before he did the
internship, he still had to do the interview, the internship, the entire process in and out. It doesn't matter, right? So a lengthy onboarding process. So for us, the onboarding is literally like basically a week long. They're going to come in for their interview. They're going to come for a full day with me and Dan. They're going to follow us around and kind of see the workings of the gym.
Let me just interrupt you, too, where I think there could be some confusion with this, where we're talking about we interview for the internship process. So we had, 8 people interview for the internship. We took 3. So we're not interviewing for somebody to come make money with us immediately. We're interviewing people for the opportunity to come work for free. You know what I mean? So like that automatically weeds out, I think, people that lack humility.
Well, I mean, but look, if you look at like another role like the front desk, like when we just hired Gwen, come in for an interview with me. She came in for a full training day to just kind of hang out in the gym and be part of the gym, right? And kind of see exactly what happens at the front.
And she was somebody that
we knew.
Somebody that we developed from within, that knew the inner workings of what happened here as a client, where it was very easy for her to understand the verbiage of giving somebody a gym tour today, telling her story within the ultimate gym tour.
And then after the full day, let's just call that a full day interview. It's basically just hanging out with us for a day, and then we ask, we just make sure that they understand exactly what happens here and what they're getting themselves into. Then they will start, then they start their training process, and the training process is basically a week of training, and they work at the front desk, and they're usually partnered up with another front desk associate, and they're going to work all day, and I'm going to every day I'm going to check in, I'm going to get feedback, I'm going to sit down and ask them questions, I'm going to talk to the other staff and see how they did, and at any point in that process, if I feel like there's something grossly wrong, you can still pull the plug before you've invested too much time and energy into that person. So develop from within is number 3, right? Just as we said here, chances are there's a great client or athlete that you have inside your gym who you can take a chance on molding them and helping them. They understand the brand, the culture. They're already invested in you as a business. So obviously, always choose wisely. Just because someone's a great client doesn't mean they're going to be a great employee. You have to identify hungry, humble, and smart. You have to identify your need. You still have to put all the other steps in process. Just because Gwen is a really good person who's super nice and happened to be looking for a job doesn't mean she's getting a job. Right? That doesn't mean that you're hired, Gwen. Yay! You're our savior. Thank you. You still have to go through the process. We still make sure that we had the opportunity to make sure that she was truly committed and understood what we were looking for, and that it was going to be a good fit for both of us. Right? So there's still a process that has to go. But we have hired a lot of people from within the gym who in a variety of roles that have all worked out really well. Not because we knew them. That helps, no doubt. But because we still did our due diligence leading up to the actual hire. So, okay, great. And I literally sat down and had this exact conversation with Gwen and JC. Now that you are no longer a client and are crossing over to an employee status, you have to understand that there needs to be a shift in your mindset as well, that you have to look at things from a different perspective. And as long as you outline everything up front and they understand what your expectations are, you really shouldn't have any problems with that. Some of the best employees, Leslie, Susan, Mama Lang, JC, right, Gwen now, Lexi, right, all really good part-time, full-time / employees who have done an amazing job with us, okay? Number 4 is creating an internship. One of the things we are huge on is we think that all gyms should have a internship program. If you want to develop good coaches, you want to do it in a fashion that allows you to not only get some cheap labor for a period of time, but it again allows you to feel people out. Coaching is a tough job. It is not easy, and we have seen it time and time again with our summer interns where everybody comes in fired up the first 2 or 3 weeks, and by week 10 of working 40, 50 hours, they're falling asleep and dying. You're holding up. So, it takes a lot of work to give a ton of physical and mental energy to 5, 10, 15 sessions a day, and I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that we don't abuse our interns. I mean, we love them and we treat them really well. But, they're here at 11. They leave at 9 every single day.
It's part of the testing process, too.
We bust their ass.
You gotta bring that person to the brink and see how they're going to react, right? I mean, they have to how they're going to react to a high pressure, high stress situation.
If you're telling me, if you walk in the door and you tell me that you want to be a professional strength and conditioning coach, this is how it's going to be inside the gym business. I don't know another business. I don't know any gym who's running like, hey, man, come in, coach 4 sessions, coach 3 sessions a day and make $100,000. It just doesn't exist. I mean, maybe when you become the general manager, maybe when you become part owner, those things change. But like for the floor trainer to,
you got to pay your dues like anything else. It's like any other business.
You got to work. And I also like look at it from, you look at all the kids who've come in who, didn't want to stay in private, who went into collegiate strength and conditioning. The schedule's worse.
It's even worse.
Way worse.
I mean, another thing, too, that I don't want to miss out on the internship is that I think a big issue when you hire somebody to be you go from interview, let's just say you have 1 day of training, and now, boom, they're in your general population. The one thing about our interns with our community, not only our coaching community, but our general population, our clients, is that it's like an acclimation process to those people being, okay, first they're familiar faces, then they're introduced as interns, then they're introduced as interns that are actually having a voice, and then those interns are actually leading groups within a bigger group, you know, and it's like, okay, now this person's been here for 12 weeks. Now they're doing another 12 weeks with slightly more responsibility in like I'm using JC as an example, but they're going to have been here for 6 months before they have any real decisive like roles where they're going to be here alone. And it's allowed us, if, you know, JC's a bad example in that we already knew him, but it allows us to build that trust factor, you know what I mean?
And it allows the clientele to ease in too. So it's like, you know, so JC's assisting on a bunch of classes. He's helping out with this. He's doing that. And no, we've given him some more responsibility.
And it's not weird.
Quicker. And it's not weird, right? Like all of a sudden, you know, on a Friday, you fired one of your coaches, and on Monday you have a new coach coaching all those classes.
Hey guys, here's JC. He's great. He goes to college. He has, you know, he has his degree in exercise science. Good luck. You know,
right, exactly. So it gives everybody a chance to kind of, you know, because no matter how you slice it, when you do have to fire a coach who's been with you a little bit and has maybe amassed a little bit of a following, maybe he just didn't fit in with your employees. Maybe there was some things that just had to go that didn't fit your core values.
It sends a shockwave.
But no matter how you slice it, if you have a coach who's doing a bunch of classes and has been around for a while, some people are going to get attracted to that person as a person, you know what I mean? Not in the physical sense, but you know, they're going to like coming to those classes. They're going to like that vibe or whatever that person's got or whatever.
And you want that.
I mean, because if everybody's telling you that they suck, though, well, then you just did a bad job as an employee, though. So it should never get to the point. Like if a client comes to me and says it's been really bad, that's usually months past the due date of when it's been bad.
Right.
And that means you didn't do your job of making sure that things were up to snuff with the classes and things like that. So there's a lot of things that we could talk about from an operational standpoint that, you know, hiring employees is great. You got to get the right people in the right seats. But the work for the business owner never ends in terms of client, employee management and upkeep and development. So the last is lead by example. If you want hungry, humble, and smart, Dan said it before, you got to be hungry, humble, and smart. Actions speak louder than words. You can't be blowing up on clients just because you're the boss. You can't be freaking out on your employees just because you're the boss. You can't take a 2-hour lunch just because you're the boss, right? You know, you never work late, so you never stay on, you know, you never open up, blah, 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 just because you're the boss, right? So, and the adage, you know, you can't throw it in people's face. Well, I've been doing this for 20 years. Nobody gives a shit. You want to be hungry. You want hungry, humble, and smart. You got to be hungry, humble, and smart. You got to treat people with respect. You got to honor people. You got to honor and acknowledge people's successes, and you have to be realistic and upfront about their failures and let them know exactly where you stand, and just be transparent. I think the best thing that me and Dan have ever been as businessmen has just been honest to each other, always, first and foremost, and honest to everybody in the gym.
And they know what we're working on. It's not like I lock myself in my office and I don't tell anybody what I'm doing. You know, like our marketing calendar.
My Xbox.
You know, is here. Everybody has it in their Dropbox. So they know, like, okay, October, like, we got to get ready for the 6-week transformation. We got to get ready for Halloween spooktacular with the prizes and pictures and everything like that. I have to formulate the newsletter for October 1st. I have to get all the emails ready for the 6-week transformation with Trevor. I have to go over the social media calendar. It's like there's a lot of things that are going on that, I
might
definitely
not be on the gym floor.
I might have more flexibility within my day as to when I get it done, but it's not like nobody thinks that we're not doing anything, you know, where that's...
Yeah.
No, like I never know what he's doing in there.
What is he doing in there? I got 14 fantasy teams going.
Right.
Like Hyde. So they would
have Hyde chained to the computer like draft.
You
better draft.
You better draft a good team, Hyde. Don't come to work on Monday. So employee development. Okay. So I don't know who said this, but I really liked it, so I wrote it down. Growth and development is the highest calling of great leadership. And that really can't be closer to the truth. You know, as I have, let's say, transcended into the role that I'm in now in the gym, I think the most important thing for us going forward as a business that wants to be recognized as a world leader in strength and conditioning, that wants to have multiple facilities, that is relying on the development of a couple key components of the gym, a couple key employees, that the development of those is solely resting on our shoulders. I mean, that's it. There is nobody to blame. We have good people, so there is nobody to blame but us if those people don't become the leaders and, let's call it, managers that we want them to be, because I know that they have the ability to. So it's really just, in a sense, our undertaking and making sure that they get the tools that they need to make that happen. So I want all my employees to be better than me. That's something I've always said to myself, and that's a hard thing for a lot of guys. It's a very hard thing for me. I spent a lot of years in college. I spent a lot of years, reading and studying, training and programming and physiology. And in my head, I have this dream of being the best strength and conditioning coach in the world, right? But if that were the case, and I was solely centered on myself being the absolute best, and everything that I did was solely revolved around me being the best strength and conditioning coach in the world, right? Then it would be, why would anybody here, or why would any top athlete want to come train with Dan? Why would any high-level, executive employee want to train with Mike? Why would any great basketball star want to train with Adam? Well, because we have made it a point to make sure that everybody in here understands that they're better than us at something. That Mike is the guy to see for strongman, powerlifting, strength training. That Adam is the guy to go see for basketball, right? That Sean is the guy for military training, right? That Simone is the person to go talk to for nutrition. And I want each guy to be better than me at as many things as they can do, because that means
it's leveled up our entire crew.
But yeah, and it just means that we've done our job as leaders to help them better themselves to a point where, like, wow, take the reins, my friend. You know what I mean? And
it comes back to the. I think that's being socially smart, and it also, I forget which podcast, maybe Creating Vision, but is having the ability to check your ego when you come in and lead the team. I mean, everybody knows you are in that position of leadership. I mean, it's like, what kind of people, what you don't need to tell people. People, if you're that good and you're running a team that's that good, so Varsity House Gym gets recognized, let's just say, by Men's Health as a top 10 gym in the world. You don't think people are going to recognize us as fantastic coaches? Of course they are.
Exactly. But some gyms, some guys, there's a lot of ego in the gym industry, and some guys have a tough time putting that. And some guys want that, though. Like, there are solo entrepreneurs who it's all about them, and that's fine. That's a different thing, though. But again, if you're going to lead a team, and you got to share the wealth. You got to share the good times and the bad times, and it's critical. One of the things, like talking to Ryan Abbott, who's been here interning for months now, he's in the process of developing his own gym. It's just like, hey, if you're going to have the people that you have involved, you got to make sure that everybody gets the accolades, that everybody gets their piece of action, that everybody, in a sense, understands that they have something that they put their thumb on, that they can hang their hat on, that they created.
Because and you can't circumvent them either. If it comes to a point where somebody's, we've talked about this before, but if a professional baseball player comes in and Big Mike's the head of baseball strength and conditioning here at Varsity House, and he trains all the 7th and 8th graders, but we have some 6'5" lefty freak that comes into training, can't be like, hey Mike, I got this one. Like, you're gonna lose respect. That should be obvious from the jump, that you can't circumvent people and their perceived roles within your space.
Absolutely. So as the gym owner, you have to create an environment of self-betterment, education, and personal growth. It is the primary function as you, as the leader, to walk the walk. I mean, nobody reads more than me and Dan. Nobody goes to more shit than me and Dan in this gym. And we help everybody get to more knowledge as much as we can, whether it's seminars, books, mentorship programs, in sessions that we do ourselves. No matter what, we're always trying to empower the crew from everybody, not just your coaches. Remember, the why shouldn't the front desk, administrative staff, or the front desk girl who's only a part-timer, why shouldn't she better herself in some way, shape, or form by improving her knowledge and ability in some areas? So if you're constantly reading, listening to podcasts, going to workshops, and never satisfied, right, that will start to rub off on the people around you, right? And that higher calling towards bettering yourself, again, ours is committed to excellence. That commitment to being the best is critical, right? So how do we do it here? What are some employee development strategies, right? I'm just going to touch on some of these, and we can outline a little bit more detail, right? So one is create some type of continuing education incentive for your employees, right? Whether it's a stipend like we do, we give a $500 stipend for every coach and employee to every full-time coach and employee to go to any type of educational process that they think will help them in their careers. So whatever it might be, whether it's a coaching symposium or like Trevor recently just went to a internet, like a WordPress class on, how to do some new things, how to do some advanced WordPress stuff.
Where was that, Trev? New York City, right?
In New York.
Yeah.
So there's many opportunities, and having some type of incentive and or stipend for them is a great way to get people to get off their ass and do it, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of times it just comes out, well, why didn't you go to this? Why didn't you go? Oh, I don't want to pay for it, So if you give them $500 right off the bat,
which is a real thing, though. I mean, with an up and coming,
of course,
coach,
if you're a 24-year-old coach and it's $1,000 for this seminar, go up to Eric Cressy's for 2-3 day mentorship, $1,000, invaluable amounts of knowledge from that. But if I could offset it with $500, now it's not so bad. Now it's only $400. So if you invest in them, chances are they're going to invest more. I think, and the reason why we said $500 because $500 was like most people's break point. We found that most coaches that worked here, and most employees, would spend up to $500, but not over that. So I figured if I give them $500, they'll spend $1,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's basically what has happened. You look at someone like Sarge. I mean, Sarge has spent like $1,500 this year. We offset on other stuff. And he's traveled to go to a bunch of places, and he's done a lot of continuing education. We also have a continuing education requirement. So, I keep track of people's CEUs. I keep track of all the stuff that they go to. And if you're not hitting your CEUs and you're not like doing stuff, you haven't done something, you're going to get a talking to with the boss. And we're going to say, hey, man, you got fourth quarter. You got to get out there and get some knowledge. You got to find something. You got to bring something back to the house and help expand our abilities as a crew. Another thing that we do with that continuation is we make sure that those employees come back and they got to give some type of breakdown on what they learned and what they did. So I know Big Mike's been every 2 weeks with the coaching meetings that he's been holding. He's been breaking down some of the stuff he learned from Eric Cressy, this past couple weeks ago. So that's something that everybody should do. And that's super simple, and it doesn't cost. Like if you have 3 employees, what the hell's $1,500 for the year? Big deal. You know what I mean?
But it could be less. I mean, you could do
be $250.
You could do plenty of things that cost. The West Side, the 1 day West Side. What was that? $97.
Yeah. The 1 day West Side.
Eric Cressy's. He did something on the shoulder girdle, which is $150. I mean, if you get creative and you look around,
there's lots of good stuff out there.
You buy the pre-registration for Fitness Business Summit, it's $300. I mean,
and
you could come to the Business of Strength for $500.
$500. I mean, that'll level up your business 10x, right? But you also have to, there's a lot of stuff that you can do online too. There's a lot of great, continuing education programs online. So make sure that you just put something in place, whatever it is, even if it's super simple. Hey guys, we're going to give you a $250 stipend, and everybody's got to go to 3 continuing education events per year. You just keep it super simple, right? Give your employees the ability to create something they can call your own. I think one of the best things that me and Dan ever did as business owners was acknowledge the fact that every guy or girl who is a leader in their own right wants something that they can call their own, wants to feel important, wants to feel like they have worth, wants to feel like they've contributed, and allowing your employees to, in a sense, stamp one of your products with their recognition, I think is critical to their acknowledgement and their, let's call it their investment in your company, And I think if we never made Mike head of strength and conditioning and didn't give him the onus to not only level himself up, but to take control of all the training and all the other coaches and stuff that were here, that he would have wound up becoming, in a sense, dissatisfied with his career. And down the road, I'm just training. There's nothing else, right? So there's no leadership. I helped build Varsity House. I'm part of the process of building Varsity House. And then we can go down the list for every guy. Trevor started off as part-time head of IT, part-time web guy. Now he's the general manager. And literally, when me and Dan are not here, he runs the entire operation. So putting people in a position to better themselves, right, and give them the opportunity to, in a sense, create something that's unique to them and your business, you might be surprised at how much they take that and shine with it. You know what I mean? And every guy that we've done it with Sean with his MET, Simone with her Snap, right? And they've all risen to the occasion and done an amazing job. Make your employees feel empowered with specific responsibilities and roles. And I said this before. If you do not outline the specific roles and duties, they're not going to do it. Everything's just going to gravitate towards the path of least resistance. It's human nature. You have to continuously expand those roles and abilities. You must give them new things to work on. You have to, people's interests, people's lives, people themselves change over time. You know, maybe Joey doesn't want to do 6 a.m. every single day, Monday through Friday, for the next 10 years. Right. You know what I mean? So you have to change people's roles. You have to switch it up. You have to give them new life. You have to give them new responsibilities. You have to constantly improve their ability and inside of your business. And that's one of the things that we do a lot of, is that's, empowering people with, new roles, new abilities, new specific duties and things like that. An employee development, we tried starting one. We just kind of, forced it out on our own. But like a gym-wide, I know there's some great gyms out there doing like a book club / podcast club. And it's like, hey, I read this book. Now everybody's going to read this book type deal. There's something super simple. I try to text out and like kind of turn people on to all the podcasts that I listen to and get everybody involved. I frequently email everybody on the advisory board with, like, if I get a cool email from one of our coaches or somebody that we work with or something that I think is pertinent to business or training, I'll send it out to everybody. So just making sure that you constantly spread the wealth and spread the knowledge is key. Give educational bonuses in return for time of service. So, one of the things that we do, is sometimes, we'll give people bonuses. So like if something's really expensive, like let's say there's let's take like the West Side certification, right? Like that's like $1,500 or something like that. Or if there was like a 3-day mentorship or a workshop or a specific certification that was expensive, you could also offset it cost by signing some type of contract for work, like, hey, I'll pay the $2,500 to go to X, Y, and Z, to go to Athletes Performance Mentorship or whatever, but you're going to guarantee me 6 months of employment, right? And if you don't, you're going to have to pay me. You're going to pay me back.
I think something a little bit more practical might be with maybe FST stretch therapist, right? And they go get FST stretch. Level 1, where they could come back and actually start applying that as another billable service.
Right. We just say, hey, we're going to take X amount off the top for the next couple weeks.
Right, and we'll front the money, but this billable service will be billed here for a year or 6 months or something like that. Or like somebody could do we've had this done in the past where it could be a precision nutrition, and they're going to start writing nutritional guidance plans for people. And you just, you work it out. You decide what's good for you, and they just have to guarantee some billable hours and some billable work.
Host some in-session workshops for you and your employees. Teach each other something new each month or every other week or however you do it. We do that a lot here. For years and years, I did it every month, probably more than a month. I would pick something from training, physiology, whatever it was, or something I was working on, and I'd break it down in detail for the crew. We'd rotate. Dan would go, Mike would go, I would go, and we'd all take turns. Right now, Mike and Sean are kind of leading the way with, in sense, let's call it coaching education, and bringing the other coaches up to speed on some of the things that they're doing training-wise here in the gym. And Mike's running 2 coaches meetings every month for the rest of the year, and just going over a whole bunch of key stuff that we want, not only from the actual product delivery side, but actual coaching X's and O's and some of the things that he's working on and some of the things that he's learned over the last year or so. So having in sessions and workshops all the time is critical. You have to put these in your schedule, though. It's real easy to say, but again, like for us, it's, hey, these are the dates, these are the times, this is what we're doing, and it's all outlined way ahead of time. And then host a variety of guests, right? You could always bring guests in. It's a great idea to bring people into your gym and kind of, bring some fresh knowledge and bring a fresh voice into your gym. A lot of times, these workshops, like somebody who, I don't know, like these rowing seminars, like Jane, our friend Jane, who's doing like Project Row, right? Well, she's coming here, partially because she likes us and we're friends, but partially because she gives her access to our clients. It gives her exposure, right? So you can kind of have a trade-off with some people in your industry. Maybe it's like a Strong First or a RKC kettlebell certification, and you say, hey, look, I want to get myself and 2 of my coaches certified, but I'll open it up to the entire gym. So, number 9 here we got is structure a growth plan. This is something that I'm doing right now, literally right this minute. I have to have our 4th quarter review with everybody. We're going to have our yearly reviews. We do that in September before we get into the 4th quarter, and we give everybody the opportunity to, in a sense, right the ship, or if the ship is righted, like most people here are doing a really great job, which is, hey, let's tweak a few things here and there and finish the year out really strong. So again, this is a time-sensitive thing. I just see most people not doing it because they just don't have the time. So I have set aside 5 hours this week just to write their yearly reviews and get their action plans in place so that people know what you can't give somebody a review, tell them what they did good, tell them what they did wrong, and then give them no action plan to move forward. Like, whoa, okay, great. I didn't sell enough smoothies at the front desk. That's great. Well, how do I sell more smoothies then? Like, what do I need to do to sell some more smoothies? So you have to break it down. And last but not least, time is money. Pay your employees well so they pay you in return. The number one thing here is that everybody is a salaried employee. There are no part-time coaches. There are no, in a sense, one-shift coaches where it's just a class coach. I just come in and teach a class. You're either coaching multiple shifts for specific hours, like 3 to 8, 3 to 9, 6 to 12, whatever it might be, multiple times a week, or you're a full-time employee, or you're not working here. We don't pay people by class, and I believe the reason is we've talked about this a bunch of times, is that you get what you pay for. Right? If you pay people like a part-timer and they don't mean much to you, they're going to work like a part-timer, and you're not going to mean much to them.
Right. And with salaries, I mean, we've said it before, but we incentivize everybody, admin to head coach, where everybody is working for something, and everybody can hang their hat on something. And with the tangible dollars, if we achieve X, Y, and Z, then there's going to be a bonus. And there's bonuses worked into our quarterly calendar. There's bonuses worked into our yearly calendar. And there's little short-term things that coaches can do that they know if they step up and do it, they're going to get paid a slight bonus for it. But they also have very substantial weekly salaries that, as far as I'm concerned, within this business, especially in the private sector, are very competitive to what other people are paying out and consistent.
Well, without giving away anybody's actual salaries or anything like that, because I think that would just be a little over the top. But basically, how we do it is we break down every dollar that coach monitors, and by the classes that they coach, the private sessions that they maintain, and so forth. And we just do a valuation. We add that up, to a number. And let's say that number is, $10,000, right? Well, a week, right? So, well, then that person should probably be paid $1,000 a week, right? And we look to about 10 times the valuation for a regular coach. Now, that's just base level, coach, get paid, right? That's for somebody with no real other responsibilities. But obviously, we try to hire people here with the idea that they're going to fall into other responsibilities. I don't want people coaching 50 hours a week. I want guys coaching 30, full-timers, 30, 35 tops. I want them to have some time left for their, other stuff.
Where like a head coach might be doing literally 50% of the programming for all sessions that are happening here. So they should be getting 10% of the youth training revenue, 10% of high school, 10% of the GPP adult population. So they're not
factored into the salary.
They're not going 10x on sessions. That's
no. So like again, if you have somebody like a Mike, like a big Mike, who's an integral part in the advisory board. He's our head strength and conditioning coach. I require that he has 2 meetings a month. He also has a team meeting every week with us. He also has an advisory board meeting every week with us. So there's a lot of other obligations that Mike has that you have to factor into that value. So like if Mike's down, maybe Mike's only getting 7 or 8 times his valuation, right? Well, I'm not taking money away from Mike because he's done so much. He's adding value to the company. So as the
some of it's always going to be arbitrary
Yes.
based upon the feel of how much work that you feel like you're getting out of somebody. It doesn't have to
Yes.
always be, okay,
dollars and cents.
it never will be. It
No.
never across any business. But you have to have a starting point for everybody where we do have an evaluation process of what a coach is making as opposed to what the coach is servicing, and we base it upon that. I mean, sometimes it's slightly under, sometimes it's slightly over, but we try to be as universal when it comes to payment here as possible, just because it doesn't create any animosity when you get we got a new VHU in today, and everybody's pumped up about the new VHU because every coach is incentivized by the amount of VHUs that we do on a yearly basis.
Right. We do
whether
50, everybody's getting a bonus.
Right, whether Joey Mack does it or whether Sean does it or whether Mike does it, they're all very excited to go meet that person because they want that person to stay on as a high value matriculated client, and it affects them all the same. And I
Absolutely.
think that's the biggest case in point. When you're a salary, it's like a team. So if my best example is with a football staff. When the football team wins, all the coaches are rewarded.
Yeah.
When a football team loses, all the coaches they get fired. So it's
I mean, and as long as you have a system, you're going to wind up tweaking it. We've tweaked ours a dozen times or more. But like if it's just dollars and cents. Start off with some type of valuation. How much can you afford to pay versus how much money they manage inside of your gym? If you got a killer employee and he's doing 10, 15 classes a week and managing, thousands and thousands of dollars in business, well, then you got to pay them decent. You got to make sure that they understand that you're paying them decent.
And sometimes, too, like if you get a new coach on staff that, doesn't have a whole book of business because you haven't trained them up to that point, you might have to take it on the arm for 3 to 6 months and just know, okay, like this person's going to be getting paid this much for the next year, and I'm probably going to take a loss on them the first 6 months, and I'm probably going to make a major gain on them the last 6 months. Right. So it'll be a wash. And you tell that person, hey, look, I'm going to pay you this from right now, but we're not going to rediscuss this contract for a year. And then at that year, you really can renegotiate. And if they've been doing a good job, I would give them almost a raise that stifles them into like an amazement where it's like, oh wow, I'm deserving of that, because it's like you're really boosting that person's self-esteem to want to stick around long term.
Yeah, we try to get people up to a substantial
Quickly.
income within, let's call it, a year to 2 years tops, because I understand in the industry there's a lot of turnover. We've avoided that by taking care of hiring good people, B, outlining the process and making sure that we stick to it,
And a career path.
And C, having a plan. And everybody knows in here what they should make. I mean, so it's really pretty simple. So that's really it. Use this information to create your own top-notch employees. Start with something simple like identifying the types of people you want and outlining a hiring process. And then slowly but surely work backwards and work your way through the rest. Remember to take action and get it done. It doesn't matter. You just got to start with something, come up with a process, hiring questions, a hiring packet, right? And that way every single person gets the same thing. I'll have Trevor link up some stuff in our show notes, and so you can take a look at some of our forms and some of the paperwork that we use. And as always, if you want to connect with me and Dan more, you can go to strengthentrepreneurs.com and check out our Business of Strength mentorships. We have another one coming up in December 7th and 8th.
Yes.
Thursday and Friday here at Varsity House, and January 13th and 14th at Reach Fitness in London, the United Kingdom. We will be taking the Business of Strength to London, baby.
Worldwide, baby.
Worldwide. And as always, thank you for listening. We hope you like it, and we will see you next time.
Peace out.
The Business of Strength, powered by Varsity House Gym. Turn your passion into your profession and learn how to run a world-class business. Be sure to visit us at www.strengthentrepreneurs.com to learn more. And as always, at varsityhousegym.com. Become unstoppable.